So before the video begins, I just want to make a quick statement about this whole thing. As you can see, this video is going to be like over an hour long, clearly. And the only statement I want to make before I continue on with the video is the fact that there's only going to be two parts in this whole video that are going to be edited, which is going to be the intro, which is what you're watching right now, and then the end of the video, kind of the outro portion right before the outro. The reason being is because when I was making this main portion of the video, the hour-long portion of the video, my camera died. So that's really it. And as I explained in the video, I'm honestly not sure if I'm ever actually going to truly post this. To be honest with you, I'm currently recording this on the 25th of September, and everything went down, was finalized, so to speak, on the 23rd of September. So this just happened a few days ago. But I get more into it in the main portion of the video, which you're going to be watching right now, and go. Hello, this is Mart back again. I'm an actor and filmmaker based out of South Florida, and I'm going to be honest with you with this video. I'm not even sure if I'm ever going to post this, although if you're seeing this, either A, you have the link to this because it's unlisted, or B, I decided to finally make this video public, so here you go. And yeah, it is currently, right now, today is September 25th, 2025, when I'm recording this video. Who knows, again, if this is ever actually going to see the light of day. But I'm going to be honest, I just want to make this video for myself. Like, this is one of those things where I truly just want to make it for myself. Most of the videos I do, not even most, just all the videos I do, I really just make them for myself. And if people want to watch them, cool. But this is one of those cases where I don't, because of the nature of what I'm going to be discussing, I'm probably not going to post it public anytime soon. But who knows, maybe next week I'm like, you know what, screw it. Let me just go scorched earth still and post this. So, who knows. So yeah, I kind of just want to talk about the situation that I found myself in a few weeks back that resolved itself a few days ago on the 23rd. Right now it's Thursday, so it happened on Tuesday when it resolved itself. And yeah, I just want to talk about this situation because I just want to talk about it, get it off my chest, to be honest with you. I really just want to get it off my chest, to be honest with you, because, you know, or I guess for myself, since I'm going to be presumably the only person ever watching this video. So yeah, so basically what happened. So for those who don't know, or haven't been following the channel or whatever, I was a substitute teacher. Keyword is was. I was just recently fired from being a substitute teacher. Now, why was I fired? Here's the story. So a few weeks ago, I was doing a job at a school. It's the Perrin Academy of the Arts School, Dr. Henry E. Perrin Academy of the Arts School. That's the school that I was subbing at. This was about maybe 3 weeks ago at this point. No, 2 weeks ago. This was 2 weeks ago. Actually, 2 weeks ago to the day. 2 Thursdays ago. So last week and the week before. So it was 2 weeks ago. And whatever that day was, the 4th or the 5th or whatever. No, not the 4th or the 5th. Like 9th, whatever. Dates are probably correct right there. I don't know. I'm still going to edit this video as if I am making an actual video for the public regardless, but besides the point. But whatever that date is, that's when I went. That's when I went to go sub at this school. And I went to go sub as a PE teacher. This is the first time I've ever subbed as a PE teacher, physical education teacher. Usually I try to avoid PE teachers, to be honest with you, just because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just kind of lazy. Don't really feel like exercising. That's really what it comes down to. But I was having a hard time trying to find jobs, and that was the only thing that was popping up. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. If this is God's will, this is God's will, so I accepted a job. And this is a school that I've been to a few times in the previous semester, in the previous year, but it's not one of my main schools. It's not like, let's say, Killian or Coral Reef or Coral Gables or Glades. It's not, or Arvida. It's not one of my main schools. It's one that I occasionally go to, but again, it's not a main school. And the prior times I've gone there, I've had no issue there. I went there, the teachers were nice, the secretaries, the office ladies were nice. You know, I signed in, signed out, didn't really have any problems with any of the students, or at least none that I can recall, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe there's like one or two problematic, like generally disruptive students, but nothing that really stuck in my memory, so to speak, you know what I mean? So, I'm like, screw it, you know, I've been to the school, whatever, it is what it is. It's a tad bit far from me, to be honest with you, but it's still within my radius. It's like right there on the border of my radius, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I had to change clothes because when I got dressed to do a not a PE job. So, I had my button-down shirt, my chinos, had a jacket ready, just the professional look I always wear. But, I got PE job, so I'm like, okay, cool, let me change very fast and then head out. So I put on a long sleeve black t-shirt. I put on some blue, like, track pants, jogger pants type of things. And I got a baseball cap. I wore, instead of my boots or my leather shoes, I got some sneakers and just wore that because, again, I'm going to be a PE teacher. And, that's really it. I drive there to the school, and I get to the school, I park, I get inside, I'm like, yeah, I'm the substitute for the PE teacher, Mr. whatever his name was. And they're like, okay, cool, yeah, I signed in as I usually do. And yeah, I'm just there as a PE teacher. Have several classes throughout the day. Everything seems natural, every single period there's one or two disruptive students. And what I do with those disruptive students is that I just say, hey, because you're being so disruptive, you're just not going to play today and with the rest of the kids. You're going to be sitting underneath the shelter. That's your timeout area, and that's it. And every class is about half an hour. So, every single class is pretty quick, all things considered. I tell them to do their warm-ups, which usually takes about 5-10 minutes, give or take, because every period it's 2 classes of about 30 kids, so about 60 kids in general per period. And again, this is every half hour, give or take, from 8:30 to 3:30, more or less. So that's how many classes I have. I do have a lunch period, so that's about half hour that's for myself. And then it's not like every single period was filled. There was like 2 periods I had, like collectively I had a 2-hour window, more or less, that I just didn't have any classes, and that's on top of my half hour for lunch. So, throughout the day, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm making sure that the kids are doing their warm-ups. They're supposed to run around the basketball court. And that's it. That's your warm-ups. They're supposed to be doing every single corner of the basketball courts. There's these stretches they need to do, like, like touch your toes, or like do the Pilates type of thing, like that, where they stretch out their arms, or reach for the sky or whatever. But like, the kids weren't really doing it, and I personally really didn't care to enforce it. If I'm being honest with you, I was gonna, if somebody asked about it, I would just play it dumb, like, oh yeah, I didn't notice there was the little signs that said, hey, do these stretches. Like, I kind of really didn't care, to be honest with you, because I know most of these kids who just wanted to go out and play. By the way, this is for an elementary school, by the way. These are all elementary school kids, from kindergarten to first grade, or pre-K to first grade, my bad. Pre-K to 5th grade, that's the range of kids. So from about 5 years old to about, I don't know, what, 10 years old? However old you are when you're in 5th grade. So that's the age range I was working with. And, I've worked with kids in the past. Of this age range, I've worked with SPED. Most of my work is directly focused with SPED kids, special needs kids. That's what the bulk of my education, my subbing career has been geared towards. Again, that's not to say I can't do non-SPED jobs. I mean, this was a non-SPED job in its very nature. But, that's just my environment in that, like, from what I'm used to. So, the kids are running around the basketball courts, and then they get to play their games. They get to play with the jump ropes, the hula hoops, the basketball. They have a soccer ball, football, and they're just playing their games. And, I see no issue with that. That's basically what I was given anyways, just have them do their warm-ups, and then they can play their games. Now, I didn't think much of it. There's, in every single class, there's 1 or 2 disruptive kids, so depending on when the disruption began, I would either set them out, let's say, at the beginning of the class, because some of them didn't even want to pay attention even for the warm-up. So I'd be like, you know what, you're sitting down, you're not going to do anything for the rest of class because you're being disruptive. Or if they get disruptive in the middle of class because they're playing too rough with one of the kids, or whatever have you, I would be like, okay, cool, break it up. If you're the one starting the trouble, okay, you sit under shelter and I'll talk to your teacher. And that's how it usually is. When I work for any other elective in any grade level, in any school, that's usually the protocol. Like, hey, just sit down the disruptive child and talk to your teacher when they come to pick it up. I've done that for other art classes or language classes, like Spanish, for example. Usually it's Spanish, but yeah, that's what I usually do. Like, if I have a disruptive kid, and usually the teachers want to know, hey, who is a disruptive kid, so I could call them out later or whatever have you. So I'm like, hey, it's usually this person or that person or that person, whatever. And that's really it. I didn't think much of it. And then my 2 p.m. class came out. And wow, was this one a doozy. So, basically, to be completely transparent with you, I had two back-to-back fights inside my class. The first one, I kind of hesitate to call a fight if I'm being completely honest, but the school and the administration that I worked for, keyword there is worked, the ones I used to work for, called it a fight. Basically what happened is that you had these two kids who were already arguing from something that happened before in their actual class. So they're arguing already as is, and keep in mind these are fourth graders. Like this class was a bunch of fourth graders, so they're about 8-9 years old, and I think nothing of it. At first I think nothing of it. I think, okay, cool, these kids are just going to argue. I'm like, hey, pay attention to the warm-ups. They're not paying attention, so I'm like, you know what, you and you are going to sit down under the shelter, and that's it. And while I allow the rest of the kids to do their warm-ups and play, I just make sure that these two kids are being relatively well-behaved, all things considered. Throughout the course of the class, there was another kid I had to sit down because he was also being disruptive, so I sat them down too. So now I have 3 kids under the shelter. Eventually I had to sit down 2 more kids, so like I had 5 kids under the shelter. But realistically, those last 2 kids, they're not relevant to the story at all. So I'm down to just these 3 kids. And what happened is that the 2 kids, let's call them kids A and kids B. I still remember their names, but I'm not going to call their names here because that's weird. But let's say kid A and kid B and kid C. There's kid C who was egging them on to fight. And that's the thing, like, although they were underneath the shelter and although I was, supervising these kids, these 2 kids, A and B, they kept like inching near each other. Like they kept like going near each other, and every time I would turn back and look at them, I'd be like, hey, split up. Don't do anything. Like, hey, you sit there, and that would work for about a minute and a half before they start getting close to each other again. So it's one of those things, like, I really had to keep an eye on them to make sure that these kids wouldn't do anything or aren't talking to them. And then I have kid C, he's still egging them on, saying, hey, why are you calling him an idiot? Or like, that kind of regular 4th grade banter. And again, I think nothing of it. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, stop talking, all 3 of you, stop talking. You sit there, you stop talking, you sit there. I'm trying to quail whatever situation was about to happen. However, I turn my back, and at some point, the 2 kids, A and B, they start getting near each other, and at one point, one of these kids bites the other kid, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now, in previous classes that I've had, in general, like throughout my substituting career, at that point, that is something that needs to be reported because now a kid has been injured. Thing is, I am alone. It's just me. There's no teachers around me. There's no security guards around me, and I'm outside. I'm not inside the classroom. My classroom is literally the field, the basketball court, the shelter, the playground right next to it. Like that is my classroom. So I'm outside. So my train of logic, and this is something that has happened in the past, is that okay, cool. When the teacher comes, I'll tell the teacher what happened, and at that point, we'll take them to the office, and whatever happens at that point, And that's usually what happens, For me, that's something that's happened in the past. It's a little bit annoying because then I have to do some paperwork, but, I don't have much of a... It's like, okay, it happened. It is what it is. I'll deal with it now. Cool, whatever. I just made sure I split the kids up, and cool. That's all good so far. And yeah, that is technically the first fight. It's not the one that got me in trouble, all things considered, but that is the first fight, and that kind of you will get to that in a bit. But when the teachers came in to pick up the students, I went to the teacher. I'm like, hey, are you Miss So and So? And she's like, yes. So I'm like, hey, this kid and that kid, they were arguing. She's like, yeah, they've been arguing the whole day. I'm like, yeah. So I guess what happened is that the one kid bit the other kid, and she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, the one kid bit the other kid. I've been trying to split them up this whole time, but they kept inching each other. And since I have the whole thing, like I'm looking to the field and the basketball courts, making sure that these kids behave. That's why I sat this other kid down and these other kids down. Kids C, D, and F. And the other 3 kids I had to sit down. They weren't playing nice. So I'm explaining the situations as to why that happened. She's like, oh, okay. He's like, hey, and we're talking about like, hey, if because sometimes teachers, they don't see that as a big issue. So which is what I was hoping for, to be honest with you. It's one of those things, like, sometimes the teacher's like, it's not that big of an issue, and we'll take care of it ourselves. And that's usually it, And when it's those situations, sometimes the office calls me afterwards, and I just explain to them, but it's usually not, like, it's one of those things that sometimes it's a big issue, relative, big issue. Sometimes it just becomes a non-issue, but even then, even when it becomes a big issue, it's not to the degree where I have to worry, so to speak. If anything, again, I just write the paperwork and that's it. That's really it. So that, especially if there's no like blood that came out, like if they didn't get like seriously injured, which they didn't. The kid just like barely bit the kid. Kid A barely bit Kid B. I told them to step away from each other, get away from each other, and that's what they did. And again, in some context, it is considered a fight. In other contexts, it's not really considered a fight. I don't really consider it a fight, if I'm being completely honest with you. But, there's certain technicalities to it. Regardless, as I'm talking to this teacher, all of a sudden, literally 3 steps away from me, these other 2 kids start fighting. They start fighting out of nowhere, out of nothing. We don't know what happened. It's one of those things that me and the teacher both, like, instinctually ran up to the kids. We're like, hey, stop fighting. But they, it happened so fast that they weren't splitting up. And there's one kid already on top of the other kid. And, like, I guess trying to choke him. He kind of had him in, like, this weird, like, headlock position. And yeah, so it's like, once we were telling them to stop fighting, but, we also had to quickly grab them away from each other, and that's it. And at that point, that is a thing that I actually need to actively report, regardless of the facts. That is something that I have to actively report. Here's the other thing. That's not the first time I've had to report a fight of that degree where the kids are punching each other. Whether it be a first grader or a high schooler in 12th grade, whether they be a normal, quote-unquote normal kid or a special needs kid. Once you have a fight of that caliber, where kids are punching, kicking each other, shoving each other like that, like brutally, that is something I have to report, regardless of the situation. And like I said, it's not the first time I've split up a fight. It's not the first time I've had to get in between students to make sure they don't beat each other to a pulp. It's not the first time I've had to like manually, physically get them apart from each other. I've done that in the past. Keep that in mind. So me and this other teacher take all 4 kids, because we have the 2 kids who are biting each other, and then you have the 2 kids who are basically fighting each other, and we take them all to the office, all 4 of them to the office. I get to the office, and there's like 6, 7, 8 people right there. I'm trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, and I try to explain them to them, and I explain each situation separately because of what was going on. And I explained to them, hey, you have these 2 kids that are being disruptive from the beginning of class, and I just sat them down, which is what I did with some of the other disruptive kids from some of the previous classes. So I sat them down. I had to sit another kid down because he was also being disruptive. So I had these 3 kids who were just being punished, who I was punishing, so to speak, because they weren't playing nice, essentially, while I was, because of the way that the class is set up, so to speak, because I have to look out at the field while I have these kids here at the shelter, at one point when my back was turned, these 2 kids got close to each other, and I guess one bit the other one, and that's what I told them. And they're like, okay, cool, what happened with these other 2 kids? I'm like, honestly, I don't know why they started fighting. I'm talking to the teacher. She's the one who helped me split up the kids. We're talking about the 2 kids who were biting each other, and all of a sudden, like literally 3 steps away from me, these 2 kids start going at it. They start fighting. I had no problems with them during class. Nobody came up to me. None of the other kids came up to me saying like, hey, there's an issue between these 2 kids. They seem to be playing nice. They just fought from one second to another, and sometimes that happens with kids in general. They just, from one second to another, they could just snap and they'll just start beating each other up. It's happened before, and again, I've had to split up fights like that before. Not the first time, and I wish I could say it's not the last time, but I guess it was the last time, given the circumstances of my situation. So, I answer their questions, I fill out the report, and everything's good. And they're like, okay, cool, Mr. Martinez, you could go back to your classroom. And that's it. About 10, 15 minutes later, because I don't have a class during this period, I'm like, screw it, I might as well play basketball, during this time. So I start playing basketball. About 10, 15 minutes later, one of the secretaries comes out, and she asked me a few more follow-up questions, and I answered them to the best of my abilities. I said, I reiterate, I don't know why they started fighting. They were just playing normally out there in the field, and it happened literally right next to me. It's like I'm standing right here, and they're fighting right there, 2-3 steps away from me. And me and this other teacher, we just split them up, because they're really going at it. The kid was on him like this, the chokehold thing I was saying, it kind of just happened. It just happened so suddenly. It's like, and that's really it. Again, I try to answer them to the best of my abilities. And at this point, I'm also during my break, where during the time period that I don't have class. So again, I'm playing basketball. Even before that, I was reading outside by the picnic table. I was reading my Bible. So like, this was like right there during this like weird break time that I had, and I didn't think much of it. I've in other places and at other schools. Again, I've never been a PE teacher, so this is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to just like randomly play basketball, at a school. So granted, that's a first. But I've gone to other schools where during my break I'll go outside to one of the picnic tables somewhere, or maybe a bench outside, and I'll just read, just to like freshen my mind, so to speak, to like not be so enclosed inside the classroom, if that makes sense. So I've done that in other schools. It's never been a problem. Like occasionally I'll get a security guard saying like, hey, why are you outside, why aren't you inside? And I'll just say, hey, I just felt a bit stuffy. Like usually maybe that, but like it's never really been an issue in general. So that's really it. At the end of the day, I go out, I sign out. I just asked to make sure, like, hey, what happened to the kids? Just some clarity, just out of curiosity, what happened to kids? And I'm like, hey, is everything good? Do I need to talk to anybody else? And they're like, no, you're good to go. I'm like, okay, cool. And that I'm good to go. So I'm like, okay, cool. I do report the incident to my personal supervisor, to the people who I work for, at Kelly Educations. We'll get to them later. And I'm like, cool, I told them what happened. And, again, whenever I've had these big blowout fights like that, that's basically protocol, where we split up the fight, we take the kids to the office, we report the incident both to the school itself and to Kelly Educations, and then usually a day or two later, I get a phone call from them. They want to verify my story, my side of the story, and usually after that, I'm good to go. There's usually no problems after that. Maybe occasionally there's like one or two details that maybe me and the school are maybe not agreeing upon, but it's something that's negligible. Like let's say for example, like they're saying that kid A started the fight, and I'm saying kid B started the fight. So I'm like, it's like, oh, maybe it happened in this one second. Like maybe it happened. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but it happened so fast, or whatever, this, that, and the other. But it's one of those things that's usually the differences are negligible. Essentially, like all things considered, the differences are negligible. And usually Kelly is like saying, hey, thank you for stopping the fight, thank you for being proactive and de-escalating the situation, even if it had to be in that manner. Thank you for de-escalating the situation, because the most important thing is that we want to protect the kids, this, that, and the other. That's what I expected, honestly. So I expected like a day or two later they'll call me, and that's it. I didn't really think much of it past that. I get a call. So the next day, on Friday morning, I'm again looking for jobs, and I'm getting nothing. Until finally a half day pops up for this same school that I just worked at Henry E. Perrin Academy of the Arts. It's for a half day for the Spanish class. So I'm like, screw it. Okay, cool. I'll do a half day. I've done 4 full days. One half day, it's not gonna kill me. It is what it is, and I'm still working. So thank God. So I get into my car, go there, and not immediately, I'll say this much, not immediately, but after like some minutes, like good 10-15 minutes, there something felt off. I'm not gonna lie, after like 10-15 minutes, something felt off. I sign in, and I'm supposed to be getting a roster for the first class, or for the first two or three classes that pertain to my time period, for the half day, for the 4 hours I'm going to be there. That's what I was supposed to get, and for whatever reason, I wasn't getting that, And I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I'm like asking, hey, what's the teacher's plans, or what's the teacher's instructions, or whatever. And they're like, we'll be right with you. Just give us a moment. And I'm like, okay, cool. And again, I've been to this school before. I was literally there the day before, so I know this school could be a little bit slow, to be honest with you. But just the way they were reacting to my questions just seemed a little bit off. And eventually, I'm like, okay, cool. The school is about to start in about like 5 minutes. Can I get somebody to at least walk me to the classroom, because I'm not sure which classroom this is. So they're like, hey, yeah, can you just, if anything, just knock on this person's door, and they should take you to the classroom. So I knock on their door, and they're on the phone, and I'm like the not like their cell phone, but like the the company phone, so to speak, like, the landline. And I'm like, oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't think much of it while they were on the phone, but I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, my bad. Eventually, somebody does take me to the classroom about 5 minutes later, so it's like we're there, and I'm there. I'm trying to set up for class, and again, I still don't have the attendance, and I still don't have the lesson plan for the day. So I'm there, and I'm just trying to figure stuff out. They said that her lesson plan may be on the desk. I'm not seeing anything. There's another Spanish teacher, basically across the hall. So I'm asking her, hey, do you know anything about this Spanish teacher? Do you know if she left her plans? So that Spanish teacher starts calling the sub. So that Spanish teacher, she starts calling the teacher that I am subbing for, and eventually it comes down to like, yeah, no, she didn't leave any lesson plans because this was kind of a sudden thing. So just have them relax and just do their work, whatever work they have, and be silent. So I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. So I'm like, cool. That Spanish teacher leaves, and literally 2 minutes later, the head secretary comes into my room and she's like, oh, by the way, the class is canceled. And I'm like, what do you mean the class is canceled? And I'm like, she's like, yeah, sorry, the class is canceled. The principal decided to cancel the class. And when I heard the class is canceled, I thought, like, how are you just gonna cancel a whole Spanish class? Like, what I misinterpreted what she meant by canceled. What she meant by canceled is that my job was canceled. Like, the job they hired me for today was canceled. How I took it is like, oh, we're just not gonna have Spanish throughout the entire day. That's how I took it initially. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, I mean, you guys maybe need a sub for another teacher or something, maybe, perhaps. I'm here, I'm available. They're like, no, you could go. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I felt very defeated, to be honest with you. I felt very defeated, to be honest with you. And I just started grabbing my stuff and I started walking out. And I'm like, hey, should I sign out? And they're like, no, you don't need to sign out. And that seemed a little bit off to me, because usually you need to sign out under, there's usually there's no circumstances where you don't need to sign out. As I'm also walking out, the principal, she's like, oh yeah, Miss so-and-so, she's gonna escort Mr. Martinez out the building. And I'm like, I hear that. I'm like, that's a weird way to phrase it. I'm like, that's a very weird way to phrase something. You know what I mean? And the person who was supposed to be escorting me out, they end up talking with another teacher. I'm like, I'm gonna just sign out. I'm gonna go to our office, just sign out, say class is canceled, and then I'm gonna hit up my people at Kelly and see what happened, because I'm like, this is weird. And the other thing with this is that the week before the Tuesday after Labor Day, I also had a similar situation where my class was canceled, where I was called for a job several days in advance, and when I get to school, they're like, no, sorry, there's an error, and then they canceled me right then and there. So by this point, it's been 2 weeks where I'm still dealing with that issue, with that class cancellation. And now I suspiciously have another class cancellation, and this is after I signed in. So I was really thrown off by this point. So I call my people at Kelly, and I'm like, hey, this just happened, and I'm like, this is strange. And also because of the fact, like, let's be honest, there's gonna be no more jobs for the rest of the day. Maybe there's a half day that starts at 11, but realistically, that's very few and far between. All things considered. The person I was on the phone with, they tried to get me some jobs for the rest of the day, but all the jobs they had were like up in Broward. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. It is what it is. Today I just won't work. It's gonna be one of those days where I just don't work, and I won't think much of it. That's really it. So I get home. I relax, I unwind, whatever. At around 4 or 5 p.m., I get a call from Kelly. And they're like, hey, we want to discuss the incident that happened to you the other day. And I'm a little bit thrown off. I'm like, what incident? Because I'm not going to lie, I had already forgotten about the fight by this point. And I was actually thinking about, like, oh, the fact that this job was canceled this morning, or maybe a follow-up to the thing that I reported last week, where my job again was canceled, even though I had it for several days beforehand, and they canceled it once I got there. So I was thinking about those incidents, about the class cancellation incidents, not the fighting incident, to be completely honest with you. So I'm on the phone with the person, and I explain. I'm like, oh, it's that phone call. It's going to be this phone call. Got it. So, I explain my side of the story, and when I finish my side of the story, they're like, so yeah, Mr. Martinez, you're going to be under investigation. I'm like, excuse me? Why? And they're like, they basically boils down to the fact that they were saying that the school said that I never did any of that I never broke up with the fight, and that I never reported the incident to anybody. I'm like, what are you talking about? I personally took these kids with the other teacher to the office. I personally spoke to like all the office ladies who were there, like 6, 7, 8 people who were there. I personally, saw the reports. I wrote and I signed the report and everything. Like, what are you talking about? That I didn't do what I usually do. I was like super confused by this, and I was put under investigation because of that. That was all of last week, and because I was put under investigation, I couldn't work. So all of last week, not gonna lie, I was very much down in the dumps, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this has never happened before. I'm like, what's going on? During that phone call, they also did tell me that the school has video footage of me not breaking up the fight. So I'm thinking there, okay, cool. If they have the video footage, so they would know that I did break up the fight. They would know that I did go to the office. I'm like, I just found it so weird that the school would be lying about this. So I found it so weird. I did talk to my stepdad, and I did talk to a few other people, like at my church, and they were, their idea, their theory, which honestly probably is true, is that, they're probably just gonna wipe their hands with you because they're an easy scapegoat. They could just say that you did or didn't do this, that, or the other, and they're just gonna wipe their hands with you. They probably want to see some heads roll, and you're the easiest one to like blame. And I'm like, yeah, but like if they say there's video footage of it, it's gonna prove that I'm in the right. So so then last week, on Thursday, I get another phone call from Kelly, and they tell me some more complaints that the school is saying. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And the complaints that they were saying is the fact that I cursed them all out in the office. And then when I heard that, I'm like, wait, so is it that I went to the office and cursed them out, or that I never went to the office and never reported the incident? Because right there, that's a outright contradiction with what you're saying, just to begin with. So there was that allegation. They were also alleging that when I went to read by the picnic tables, that I was checking out kids, if you catch my drift. And I'm like, no, what? There was no kids around. And they were alleging that when the kids were in the playground, I was looking at them. I'm like, I'm telling them that when I read, there was no kids at the playground. If anything, there's like an outdoor hallway, and occasionally 1 or 2 kids would like cross through that area, and I would like wave at them because they would wave at me, so I'd wave back and acknowledge their existence, and there's one or 2 kids who like asked me like, are you the sub for so and so? I'm like, yeah, I'm the sub for so and so, and that, like, that's about it. That's as far as it went, but I'm not checking out kids, if you like, that's just gross, that's ridiculous. And no, like, I'm acknowledging their existence, but I'm not checking them out. Like, what the hell, So there was that allegation, and then the other allegation that they said, which was kind of ridiculous in my opinion, is the fact that I was dressed unprofessionally because I came in a t-shirt and track pants, and I'm like, I'm subbing for a PE teacher. How do you expect me to dress? That one really threw me off. So the other thing I was told is that on Monday, so this Monday that just passed, on the 22nd, the Monday that just passed, we're going to have a Zoom meeting, and we were going to basically discuss all these allegations. We'll see the proof, the videotapes, and, that's going to be, and from there, and after that, a day or 2 later, I'll actually know the results of the investigation. I'm like, okay, cool, this videotape should show that I am innocent of whatever the hell they're accusing me of, because I broke up the fight, and I reported the incident, like, I do not understand what the issue, like, it's one of those things, like, I was very thrown off throughout this whole incident of why this school is lying. Like, I've told you before, I've broken up fights in the past. I've been praised by both the schools and by Kelly for breaking up these fights, for making sure that these kids weren't put in danger, like, that, that's, so I'm very thrown off why this school is lying. And like, now, like I told you, like my stepdad said, and like some of my friends said, like, maybe they're trying to wipe their hands with you. And at that point I was like, yeah, with these weird allegations of me cursing them out, I'm like, this is getting very strange at this point. And on Monday we had the Zoom call. And not gonna lie, I thought it was gonna go a different way. What I mean by that is the fact that I thought it was gonna be like me, 1 or 2 representatives from Kelly, and like the principal, and maybe the assistant, like 4 or 5 people at this meeting tops, you know what I mean? But no, this was like a whole delegation. This was like 10 people there. It was like 5 people from Kelly, 5 people from the school, and like me. Actually, it was like three or four. It was like two or three people. Sorry, from Cali, and like two or three people from district that are said, because this became a district issue because it was a fight. And I'm like, what is going? I'm like, people from district, what is going on? And then like again, like five people from the school. And I'm in the Zoom meeting, like immediately I see all these people. I'm like, what is going on? And like we all introduce each other. Like I'm like, okay, cool. I actually had to ask, like, why are there so many people there? And it's because like, because the school, they have their witnesses that they want to bring up to prove that what you're saying is false. And because and that's when I learned that this became a district issue because of the fact that this was a fight. And I'm like, I did not realize this would be that big of an issue. Like I just want to, I'm very thrown off by everything that's going on by this point. But I'm like, you know what? I'm trusting in God, and I'm trusting that the video footage that these people are about to see is gonna prove my innocence. Like I'm like, I have the video footage on my side. It really cannot go wrong in any stretch of the imagination. It cannot go wrong. So, so the school discusses their side of the story. I discuss my side of the story. Again, like I said, that the school the school alleged that I never broke up the fight. The school alleged that I never broke up the fight, that I never reported the fight, and that I was dressed unprofessionally, that I cursed them out, and that I was checking out kids, which was all categorically false. They did bring up a new allegation, and and I guess you could say this is technically true, but like, it's one of those things, you're also just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And they were saying that I was mishandling school equipment because, again, I did play basketball at one point. I'm like, I guess you could say that, but like, that's like, what's your point in saying this? Like, what? Like, it just seemed very random to me. So like, I was asked about a bunch of stuff before we saw the video footage. I was asked a bunch of stuff like, oh, why were you playing basketball? I'm like, dude, I'm a guy in my mid-20s. I have a free basketball court. It's like, I might as well play basketball, It's like, I don't know what you want me to say. And I guess it's the school's policy that you're not allowed to use their equipment. And I just said, okay, cool. If that was your policy, why didn't you tell me that in advance? I was not aware of that policy, of said policy. And because I was not aware of said policy, I used the basketball court, the basketball and the basketball court. Like, which honestly is kind of a weird policy, all things considered, but that's neither here nor there. But so there was that thing, and when it came to the stuff of me checking out children, like I wasn't checking out children yet. I was reading my book, I was reading my Bible at the picnic table, and that's the thing with the video footage. I thought the video footage was just gonna be of the fight itself, or the fights themselves, and then the aftermath, But no, they got the footage from the whole day. I'm like, okay, cool, you got the footage from the whole day. Again, it's gonna show that I'm in the right, so have fun with it. So so during the time that I'm reading, they were saying that, oh, there was kids in the playground and he was checking out the kids. There were no kids in the playground, as the video footage shows. There's no kids at the playground, and the kids that were walking, in that hallway that's right next to the playground, I would acknowledge their existence. I would wave. Like I said, I would wave. If they asked me a question or said hi to me, I would respond back like, hi, or yes, I'm the sub for the coach, And that's as far as it went. That's literally as far as it went, because, well, I'm not a pedophile. So like, I literally said that during the Zoom meeting. I am not a pedophile, so like, I have no reason to look at kids, and the way they are trying to imply, that's just gross, to be honest with you. I acknowledge their existence, so in that case, sure, I was looking at them because I have eyes, and I'm looking at them to acknowledge their existence and wave at them, but I was not looking at them in the way that they are trying to imply, because I'm not a pedophile, I'm not a predator. What the hell? I'm like, what is this? What is this accusation? You know what I mean? They got to a point of, why was I dressed unprofessionally? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm wearing a long sleeve t-shirt, I'm wearing my track pants, I'm wearing the sunglasses and a baseball cap because I am a PE teacher. I'm going to be outside for basically the whole day. The sun is going to be on my face, that's why I need the baseball cap. The sun is going to be in my eyes, that's why I need the sunglasses. I am outside because, I'm outside because this is the class, so I'm dressed according to what a PE teacher would presumably wear. Like, the track pants are, they're track pants, the long sleeve t-shirt, it's a dark long sleeve t-shirt, I rolled it up when I got a little bit hot, but, it's like, and for me, that accusation also seemed like just very out of nowhere, and it just seemed very random, but it's something that we had to talk about because that's what they're accusing, because they're accusing me of dressing unprofessionally, I literally asked, like, I'm a PE teacher, I'm outside the whole day, like, did they expect me to come in a button-down shirt and jeans, or khakis, with a jacket. I'm very confused by this accusation that I'm dressed unprofessionally. I'm dressed more casually, because of the nature of the class. And because of the nature of the class, I would say I'm actually dressed professionally for the nature of the class. And even if you want to get to brass tacks, there's other teachers who I guess you could argue were dressed similar to me. There's teachers in their leggings and a t-shirt. I don't really see where this accusation is coming from. It just seemed I got very thrown off by it, And like I said, they were accusing me of mishandling their property with the basketball. I'm playing basketball, so I told them, like I said before, yes, I played basketball. I did not realize that would be an issue because they never told me that I cannot play basketball, on my own time. There was also a time where I just decided to jump rope, and they also got mad about that. The school got mad about that. I'm like, again, I was not aware that I cannot use their equipment. I cannot, use the jump rope or play basketball. That was an issue. They should have told me from the start, but they never did. They never said anything about it. So I'm sorry, I guess. I guess if anything, you do have that against me, but you guys also never told me what the rules were, so how was I to know? Type of situation. You know what I mean? And then we get to the actual cases of the fights. And then we actually get to the brass tacks of the actual accusations. And, by this point, we had already seen some of the footage, even before that, of me reading outside, me using the basketball court for my own time, the jump rope for my own time, just kind of existing. So, before and during the classes and whatever. And then we get to the actual fight. And I tell them, and again, we start off with the two kids who are biting each other. And as I said before, and as I'm explaining during the video, which we're seeing the footage of at this point, I'm like, so yeah, these two kids, as you can see there, I'm trying to line them up. For the warm-up, these two kids, you can see, they're still bickering with each other. We're still turning to each other. So I just sit them down, and I set them down under shelter, this time and the other. And here's the thing, this audio, there is no audio here it's just a video. So I'm basically giving a commentary on what's going on, as things are going. And, while the kids are under shelter, I try to break them up. They're like, why did you bring this other kid in? I'm like, oh, he was being disruptive. He was yelling at this other girl or, whatever about not getting the ball or whatever have you. And that's why I had to sit him down. And he was already talking bad to her. So I had to sit him down because he was being disruptive. Again, that's what I've done with the other kids and some of the other classes. And again, this just seemed very natural to me. Very natural to me. I again, in my mind, I'm thinking, why are we having this conversation? This conversation is nonsensical. Why is this happening? And also in my mind, I'm like, this is the video footage. I'm good. I don't see why the school would lie about this if they're providing the video footage. And then we get to the actual incident of the biting, and I told them hey, so yeah, I was turned around because I was looking at something that was happening outside in the field. I was just paying attention more to the field at that point. But yes, as you can see, I turned around quickly. I saw them that they were on top of each other. As you can see, I split them up. I yelled at them as I split them up. And at one point, that's when one of the kids said, hey, he bit me. And I'm like, he bit you? Like that. I'm very confused. And, and he's like, yeah, I bit. And then the other kid's like, yeah, I bit him because that's what he deserves, something like that. And I'm like, okay, why did you bite him? I was just very confused. I'm like, you sit there, again, I'm just splitting them up. And they're like, why didn't you call the office at that point? And why did you report it to the office at that point? I'm like, listen, I was planning on reporting it to the office. I just couldn't at that point because, again, I'm outside, I'm alone. In some of the other cases where I've had fights, there's usually another teacher or a security guard around that could maybe supervise a classroom. And if I need to go immediately, there's somebody around that can supervise the classroom. If not, somebody will be there to take those kids to the office, and then I'll report it on my own accord at the end of the day or whenever I have time later on in the day. But at that very moment, I had nobody around to help me. So even if I wanted to take them to the office at that very point, me personally, take them to the office at that very point, I had nobody to supervise the class. And that's what I told them. Hey, my plan was to talk to a teacher and see and from that point, take them to the office and kind of just go from there. That's what I told them. It's just that I'm outside and I don't have anybody else alongside me, another teacher or the security guard or a TA or a para or anything like this around. So I just don't want to leave my class unsupervised, which I thought was a very decent general logical response. I thought that was a very logical response. And then this is when the principal kind of started snapping, harshly. She's like, no, Mr. Martinez, why, tell the truth, why didn't you take them at that point? And I'm like, I'm very thrown off by her demeanor at this point. I'm like I said, there is nobody around. In this time, she's like, how can I leave my class unsupervised? If anything, leaving a class unsupervised would actually lead to more danger for the kids. And she's like, why didn't you call the office? Why didn't you call the office? I'm like, I didn't have the ability to call the office. She's like, there's a walkie-talkie there. I'm like, which there was a walkie-talkie within my little office. That is true. However, I told them, hey, two things. In all honesty, I did not think about using the walkie-talkie. If I'm being completely honest with you, I did not think about using the walkie-talkie. Because usually I have no need to ever use a walkie-talkie. This would have been the first time that I would have ever needed to use a walkie-talkie. And two, and all things considered, I wouldn't have known how to use that walkie-talkie. I'll be honest, that second answer is a bit of a cop-out answer, because realistically I probably would have figured it out somehow. But if I'm being completely honest, like, it's more of the first one. I'll be honest, I did not think about using the walkie-talkie. Because I've never needed to use a walkie-talkie while I'm a sub. So that something that wouldn't have come across my mind. In general, it's one of those things. If you've never done it before, why would you start doing it now? If it's not something that you usually do when it comes to like proper protocol, And the administration, the Kelly administration, the district, they seem to be content enough with that answer, because I told them, hey, I was still going to talk to them regardless. I just didn't have the ability to do it at this point. So we've moved past that, and finally we get to the actual big fight. Now we get to the big fight, and I'm like, and I told them, hey, as you can see here, I'm going to talk to this teacher about the two kids who are biting each other. As you can see, I'm talking with her, and all of a sudden you see how about 3 steps away from me, these two kids just start pounding on each other. So and you can see that me and this other teacher are running towards those two kids to split them up. Clearly, that allegation of me never stopping the fight is clearly false. As you can see in the video, me and this other teacher are clearly splitting them up. And here's the thing with this other teacher. This other teacher actually was there at the Zoom meeting. And this other teacher, she has a very distinctive look with her hair. And immediately the teacher's like, no, he never helped me. I'm like, what? I'm like, she's like, no, you never helped me. You never helped me. She goes, you never helped me. I had to split those kids up by myself. I'm like, is that not you right there in the camera, in the video? She's like, yes, that's me. Okay, then who's the guy right there? He's like, oh, that was somebody else. That was somebody else. Have we not been looking at me throughout this whole time? Did I like change clothes like in the span of like 2 minutes? Like what? Like that's me with my blue baseball cap, me with my black t-shirt. Like that's me helping you break away these kids, from fighting. She's like, no, you never helped me. I'm just thinking, this is illogical. Like, there's no way she's saying this when the footage is right there, And this is where I kind of start to like, I'm trying to be professional during this whole meeting, but there's a part of me that's like, like that, not nervous, but I'm like it's just like really like that type of like expression, like is this really happening? Like I'm trying to hide my laugh. Like is this really happening right now? Like what is going on? Like that type of look, right? So she goes like, no, you never helped me. I'm like, is that not you? Yes. Okay. Have we not established I've been wearing this same outfit the whole day? Yes. So then would that not be me? She's like, no. I'm like, what is going on here? What is going on here? Right? And we keep playing the footage, and eventually me and this teacher, that I did indeed help break up the fight with, we go to the office. We see the footage of me and this teacher walking all 4 kids to the office. We see the footage of me inside the office for those like 5 minutes. I'm inside, 5 or 10 minutes, whatever. That I'm in the office. Me talking to all the women who are there, all the secretaries who are there. We have footage of me looking at the report details, me signing the report details. I'm saying like, hey, this is me calmly talking, not cursing them out. I'm calmly talking to them. If anything, maybe because I was kind of filled with adrenaline or whatever have you, or maybe because I was a little bit stressed by the situation, maybe my voice came out a bit more forceful or a bit more louder than it usually would, but I certainly did not curse them out. And then that's when the principal starts talking again. And she's like, no, Mr. Martinez, tell the truth. You have the right. We must know the truth. You did curse us out. Stop lying. I'm like, ma'am, I am not lying. I'm not lying. If anybody's lying here, it will be you guys. You guys are clearly saying that I did this when the footage clearly shows something else. Like, I straight up said something like, I'm very confused by this whole turn of events. Like, I genuinely am. I'm like very confused by this. It's like, no, Mr. Martinez, stop lying, we demand the truth, you deserve to tell the truth, we deserve the truth. I'm like, I'm telling you the truth. The video footage is showing the truth. Like, what are you talking about at this point? You know, like, I'm like very confused. And then the assistant principal starts speaking, and this is when I knew that they must have done research on me at this point. I guarantee that they found my LinkedIn. Honestly, I guarantee they found my LinkedIn, and from there they just found more stuff about me. Because at that point, they start saying, the assistant principal starts saying, like, maybe what actually happened is because this isn't really the footage. Like, this is not the footage that we submitted. Maybe I think what happened is that you somehow got handed the footage and you edited the footage somehow with, like, special effects. Because you're a filmmaker, right? You're a filmmaker, so you somehow must have edited this footage, the security camera, with, like, special effects to make yourself look good. And I'm just, like, they're, like, stunned. I'm like, because now I'm starting to process what's, like, really going on. Like, bro, one, these people are delusional. Two, they're trying to gaslight this whole situation. And three, they had to, that's something they had to do research on me. Because I have no reason to tell them or any school that I'm a filmmaker, you know, or a former filmmaker at that. You know, so it's one of those things, like, I quickly realized, oh, they must have found, like, what they did is, because they have my email, and they have my number, you know, from the records, you know, and of course, they know I work for Cali, so, like, it's one of those things. They probably just searched up Daniel Martinez, Cali Education. They searched up my number or my email, and through there, they found my LinkedIn. And on my LinkedIn, I do have that I was an actor, that I used to do acting, I used to do filmmaking, and stuff like that. So, like, my original LinkedIn username is Daniel Mart's Actor, or something like that. That was my original username for LinkedIn. Now I changed it to something else that's more professional because I'm not focused on acting anymore. But that was my original thing. Like, so, and there it does show that I was an actor. That I have there on under my experience career section, my job section, that I'm the president of Mart Productions. I have it there that I am a filmmaker actor. You know, I have that there. You know. So from that, you know, I've listed some film projects there. So, like, my guess is that they found my LinkedIn, and from there they found either my IMDb or my YouTube channel or whatever have you, and from there they know that I'm a filmmaker, an award-winning filmmaker at that, because they actually did say, aren't you an award-winning filmmaker? The assistant principal, she's like, you're an award-winning filmmaker. You can make stuff like this, and, you know, fake videos and all this, that, and the other. I'm like, so I'm like, I by that point, I really knew they did the research on me, which I was, and not gonna lie, I was kind of creeped out by that. Like, I was genuinely creeped out by that, and I'm like, that's just weird. And I told her, like, hey, I'm not that kind of filmmaker. I've won awards, sure, but I've never, not for editing. They're like, yeah, but you have an award for special effects, which I do. I do have an award for special effects, which I'm like, wow, you guys really did your research on me, because I do have an award for special effects for Quince at that one Greek film festival that was kind of a scam, which I'm not gonna get into that. You know, I did videos for that in the past, but, you know, I'm like, yeah, I did win an award for special effects, but, like, that's, like, practical effects, you know, not digital effects, which is what you're trying to imply. And she's like, yo, the assistant principal was like, oh, you probably use, like, AI to, like, edit the video. And I'm just like, you guys provided the video. You guys provided the video to the district. The district would have no reason to share that video with me, realistically speaking. You know, like, this is the first time I'm seeing this video, so I don't, and even if I did have access to the video, I wouldn't, there'd be no reason for me to edit. Like, realistically, let's say for whatever reason the district did want to give me the video, for whatever reason, yeah, sure, I could edit it on my own accord, but I'm pretty sure district is going to just use their raw footage, their raw copy of the video. They're not going to accept my version of the video, if that makes sense. So, like, again, I'm just, like, very thrown off with these accusations. I'm like, oh, again, but, you know, moving on, I'm like, again, you can see me not cursing them out. You can see me writing up the report sheet right there for the incident report sheet. You can see me back in the area. As I said before, there's a secretary that came out like 10-15 minutes later, and I answered her follow-up questions. Yes, I was playing basketball, so if you wanna get me for anything, maybe like improper use of your equipment on a policy that I was never told about beforehand, sure, but like that's really it. And like the rest of the day was good. Like and again, throughout this whole thing, I had one teacher saying, And then, no, you never helped me. The principal saying, stop lying, Mr. Martinez, and the assistant principal saying, hey, you're a filmmaker, so you must have edited the video. And again, this was just, it was like, that's really it. Eventually they make their final statements, and they're like, clearly, Mr. Martinez is lying. He's not being honorable, and he clearly did not report the situation. As you can see, he is trying to gaslight us. He's being unethical. He should be in this, that, and the other. I'm like, sure, go ahead, rant. What is going on here? No, like, what is going on here? You know. So I kind of just leave it at that. Then they asked me to make my final statements, and I'm just like, as you can see, the footage shows that I did what was asked of me. Some of these other accusations are just clearly baseless. Like, I was not checking out children at all. I was dressed professionally, given the position I was subbing for. You know what I mean? I said, if anything, I guess it could get me for improper use of their equipment, but like, they never told me the policy. In all fairness, it clearly shows that I broke up the fight. It clearly shows that I reported it. Plus, Kelly themselves, you guys have my personal report incident sheet from the phone call that we had the day prior, the day of or whatever. You know, it's like, you guys know I reported this, so like, I don't know where this is coming from. That I never reported this. You know, I've done this before. You know, and I told them this is the protocol that I always follow, and it's never been an issue. You guys have praised me in the past for doing this, for getting in the middle of fights and breaking them up because I'm not endangering the kids, and this and the other. So I'm like, I should be good. If anything, I told them, like, honestly, the best solution would be, for me to be reinstated. That would be the best solution given the situation, given the fact that we clearly know that these people are lying for whatever reason. The best solution would be for me to just be reinstated. I just won't ever work with that school again, and you guys can handle the school however you guys want to handle that school from now on. At that point, it's beyond me. I really don't care, but I just won't ever sub for that school again, and that'll be it. And the people told me, and Kelly and district, they told me, okay, cool, Mr. Martinez, we'll get back to you soon. Thank you for your time, and that's it. I'm like, okay, cool. I am not worried about this situation. I'm like, this is, it's one of those things that I was just thinking, like, this is such a wild situation. Like, why are they lying? Like, what is the point of lying? And then you guys are showing video footage of all this? It's like, this is gonna bury you. And then, like, the comments you guys made, like, this is gonna bury you even further. Like, why are you lying? It's like, one of those things I couldn't wrap my head around. Like, why are you lying? Like, logically, it makes no sense whatsoever. However, it still went south. I still got fired. Why did I get fired? So on Tuesday, literally the next day, I get a phone call at around 5 p.m. I get a phone call, and the person I'm with, Karina, I'm just gonna call her name out. I don't really care. Again, who knows when this video, if it ever will see the light of day. But Karina, she gets on the phone and she's like, yeah, unfortunately, we are going to terminate you. And I'm like, why? I'm like, excuse me, but why? Like, with all this, why are you terminating me? You know? I mean, did you guys not see the lies that the school said against me? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I was very genuinely thrown off by this. I'm like, because I felt good. I genuinely felt good. Like, okay, cool. I proved my case. There's no reason I should be fired. And yet I still got fired. And they're like, and Karina did admit, like, yes, the school is in the wrong for lying. Okay, so then what is the issue? And they're like, the thing is that we have a no-touch policy. And therefore, because you broke up the fight, because you touched the kids, we have to terminate you. I'm like, excuse me? Excuse me? So I literally said, I'm sorry. So I was being accused of not breaking up the fight. And that's why I was going to get fired. And now you're telling me that I broke up the fight, and I'm still getting fired. How does that make sense? And then she just keeps reiterating this policy, like, yes, but the thing is, you have to understand, Mr. Martinez, that we have a no-touch policy. I'm like, Karina, because I've spoken to Karina in the past. She's my main point of contact when I have an incident. I've told her, Karina, in the past, you've praised me for breaking up fights. You know that I break up fights. You know this has never been an issue. You've told me that the school thanked me for breaking up the fights. I've told you I've gone in the middle of these fights, that I've had to physically drag kids off of each other, pull kids off of each other during some of these other fights. What? And she's like, unfortunately, Mr. Martinez, we have a no. And she kept reiterating that. Which at that point I was getting very much pissed off. I was like I told her, okay, cool. You also have a policy that states not to put kids in danger. Do you not see how those two policies then are contradictory to each other? You know, you're telling me, you're telling me that I shouldn't put kids in danger, but you're also telling me that I should not break up a fight. Because here's the thing with the no-touch policy. The no-touch policy is more so for a nefarious point, if you catch my drift. It's for something that's more nefarious. And if you catch my drift. However, this was not the situation. There are instances where you are allowed to touch kids, again, in times when a child's life is possibly in danger. Like this, like in the case of a fight. You know, that is like the big asterisk to it. They do have an issue if you here's the thing, even with the no touch policy, they do have an issue if you high five a kid or fist bump a kid or hug a kid. But then again, it's one of those things that's something you usually take up with the school, and also depends on the class, because there's a difference between you hugging a first grader who will randomly just come up to you and hug you sometimes, versus you hugging a senior purposely. You know what I mean? There's also a nefarious thing to it too, if you kind of catch my drift. So I told her hey, this is insane. I've broken up fights. You could go back through my history of my reports, and you will see that I've physically broken up fights. And now you're telling me that. I told her this is illogical, and she's like, unfortunately, Miss Martinez, this is how it goes. And I'm like, I'm sorry. So let me ask you this: if a fight was happening right next to you, literally 3 steps away from you, are you gonna tell me you're not gonna stop it? And at this point, I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting kind of pissed off by her, because she keeps reiterating this no-touch policy thing. That's her only automated response at this point. I'm telling her, and she's like, well, here's the thing, I would think of the policy before anything else. I'm like, no, let's be honest, no, you wouldn't. Either A, you would just straight up freeze, which is a valid response, but it's not you're freezing because you're thinking of the policy. You're freezing because just human nature says, flight, fight, or freeze response. You know what I mean? So either A, you freeze, or B, you would actually step in and get there and split up the fight, which is what I did, which is what I always do, which is what I always do. I told her, hey, I straight up told her, hey, forget the policy, honestly. Let's be honest, let's use actual human logic here. Would you not break up a fight? And she just kept, she's like, I cannot forget human logic. If anything, I'll put policy over human logic any day. I'm like, that is just insane. And then she's like, Mr. Martinez, you are terminated. And at this point, your attitude is getting very rude. You're and all this stuff. I do not like your attitude. You're becoming very unprofessional with status. I'm like, screw this. At this point, I'm like, screw this. I'm like, you know what? Screw that. I said, you know what? Screw this. Screw you. Human logic over this policy, because realistically, what's more important is making sure that the kids are safe, regardless of your policy. And this is something that that I've done in the past. So screw this. Honestly, your policy is nonsensical and it's just dumb. And I just hung up. That's what I did. So yeah, that was it. I got fired from being a substitute 2 days ago because I broke up a fight. And again, it's not the first time I've broken up a fight. The thing that screwed me over from the start is the fact that the school was lying about my actions. In the past, when I've broken up a fight, the school will always back me up on my actions. And on top of that, they always praised me and thanked me for breaking up the fight. It's because of the fact that this school did not want to take responsibility for whatever reason. They wanted to see heads roll, and because I was an easy scapegoat for that, that's why I was fired. I was fired because this school, despite the video footage, and despite the fact that Kelly and the district agree to the fact that the school was lying, despite all that, I got fired because I did the right thing. And it's one of those things that this policy is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because either A, I don't break up the fight and I get fired, or B, I break up the fight and I do get fired. And this is one of those things I'm in a few different group chats, or I was in a few different group chats for substitutes. And there's stories that were like, hey, I follow the policy. Cause I'm aware of this no-touch policy, but I know the actual context for that no-touch policy. You know what I mean? But, I'm in some of these other group chats, and they're like, hey, yeah, I followed the policy of no touch, and I got fired because I didn't stop a fight. And so I've seen people, I know people, subs who have been fired for not stopping a fight. Now I'm on the opposite end. I did stop the fight, but it's because of the fact that this school lied that I got fired. And now they're using the no touch policy as an excuse to fire me, even though they have another policy that states, hey, you better make sure that the kids, the students, are not endangered under any circumstance, and if you need to physically get in the middle of it, by all means go ahead. So that's why I got fired, because a school lied, and Kelly wants to uphold some nonsensical, I'm trying really hard not to curse right now, but a nonsensical policy that's meant to purposely screw you over. Either you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're damned because either you don't break up the fight, the school reports you for not breaking up the fight, and you get in trouble and you're fired, or you're damned if you do, because then you have this other policy that says you're not allowed to touch kids under any circumstances, even though the context is for a more nefarious reason, let's be honest, and then you get screwed either way. That's why I got fired. I just wanted to let this all out, to be completely honest with you. Again, I'm not sure if anybody's ever going to see this, truly. Maybe I'll leave it here unlisted. Maybe I'll release it sometime in the future. Again, I am currently recording this on the 25th of September of 2025. This happened on the 23rd. I got fired on the 23rd of September of 2025. Who knows when this video gets released, if it ever gets released. But I just wanted to let all of this out because it's been really frustrating. So yeah, as I said, I was very frustrated. Sorry for that cut. That's the other part of the video that was affected because my camera died. But yeah, as I said, I was very frustrated by this whole situation because, again, I objectively did the right thing. I did something that I've always done, no matter the circumstances, and it's at the end of the day, it's something that the policy just completely screwed me over. It's like I said, it's a policy that's meant to screw you over. You're either damned if you do, damned if you don't. As I said before, I know subs who have gotten into trouble, who have gotten fired because they didn't physically step in and break up a fight. So again, that's why I say the policy is nonsensical, to say the least. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Damned if you do step in the middle and break up the fight, because then you're touching the children, which is, in that case, that's against another policy. Or damned if you don't, because you didn't protect the children from endangering for their lives, because their lives were in danger at that moment, and you didn't step in to break up the fight. And that's the thing, like, I know subs where that's happened to them, where they did not break up the fight, and they still got fired. So again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Karina, the representative that was my main point of contact, she said, you should have. What she said is that what I should have done is waited for the teacher to break up the fight, and if the teacher needed help at that point, then I could step in and break up the fight, which I just thought was completely ridiculous, to be completely honest with you. Me and the teacher, despite what she claimed, me and the teacher, we both stepped in at the same time and broke up the fight. It's that simple. Alternatively, I could have also asked for help and let somebody else deal with the fight. But again, I would have been in trouble for me not personally stepping up to break up the fight. Again, I know teachers who, that was the incident where they asked a security guard or they asked another teacher to break up the fight, but they themselves did not physically get in the middle of it, and then they got called out because, hey, you're right there, why didn't you break up the fight? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And honestly, I'm honestly very, aside from the obvious frustration with all this, I'm also just kind of saddened by the fact that I got fired from subbing, because my plan was this. At this current moment, I still work at Banana Republic. However, I do not like working at Banana Republic, or just recently there's been a lot of issues, which could honestly be a video on its own accord, if I'm being completely honest with you. But recently, I've just been having a lot of problems at Banana Republic, so my ideal was this. I would work at Banana Republic up until halfway through October, maybe end of October, no more later than midway through November, right before. Okay, so I got an Amber Alert, so you get another cut. Great. So yeah, that was my plan. That was my plan. I leave sometime between mid-October and mid-November, right before Black Friday, and during this time, I just basically focus all my attention on subbing, substituting, and just kind of go from there. At the same time, while I focus my time on substituting, I still try to get the RBT, my certificate for the RBT, which has been a hassle in its own right, which that could be a video in its own right, to be honest with you, on its own accord. And yeah, that was honestly my original plan. Just do all that. Quit Banana Republic, basically sooner rather than later, but again, no later than midway through November, but sooner rather than later. Focus all of my time on subbing, And while I focus my time at subbing, on subbing, I focus the other attention I have is for the RBT stuff. And because just the other thing with subbing, I make more in 1 day of subbing than I do on 3 days of working at Banana Republic. The metric, the pay rate it fluctuates a little bit when it comes to subbing, because sometimes a full day is considered 6 hours, sometimes a full day is considered 8 hours, sometimes a half day is considered 3 hours, sometimes a half day is considered 4 hours. So like you can't really, but you know the average of the math. Furthermore, that also depends on if you're working with regular kids or special needs kids. Special needs kids usually you get a bit more money if you sub for special needs kids, which is the majority of what I was doing. But let's say an average day is 8 hours, and even for regular kids, let's say 8 hours for regular kids, I make about 120. In order for me to make that amount of money in 8 hours, which I make in 8 hours, at Kelly at subbing, I would need to work 3 days at about 12 to 14 hours to make that same amount of money. You see why? You see why? So let's say I was to, and even if I do a half day for regular kids, which is about 4 hours, that's more equivalent, to be honest with you. That's more equivalent to like a 1 day at Banana, at about $50 at Banana, compared to Kelly, which is about, again, $55. So that one's more equivalent. But it's the rest of it that's like, oh, that's where I see the actual progression, the actual benefit of it, where if I in 8 hours I could either make about $100, or in about 8 hours I could make about $120. $20 is still more, and that's, again, if I'm working with regular kids. If I'm working with special needs kids, then I could do 8 hours across 2 days. That's $100, give or take. Or in 1 day, in 8 hours, I can make $150 because now I'm working with the special needs kids. You see how that benefits me. And keep in mind that that's $150 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whereas $150 would just be for 1 week at Banana. So it benefits me more to do subbing, just in general. So again, that was gonna be my plan. I quit Banana Republic, get out of there, and from there on, I do subbing, and I focus my time on RBT and getting my certificates, both my certification certificate, which has been the biggest struggle, then do the competency certificate, and just kind of go from there. And eventually, hopefully by the end of the year or the beginning of next year, finally, I would have figured everything out by now, and finally, I could become an RBT. And I just kind of go from there, wherever God leads me. Plans changed, clearly. And it's just very unfortunate, because now I'll be honest, I do have now a financial strain, because last month, in September, May, June, July, August, in August, let's just say, I'll be honest, I overspent some. Again, I'm filming this in September of 2025. Literally yesterday, my favorite Barnes & Noble's closed. The reason that's important is because, I'm not going to lie, all throughout August, I kind of overspent on a bunch of criterions and a bunch of books. With the thought process being, okay, cool, I'll make up all that money I wasted this month while I'm subbing. No longer happening. So that is one of those things that, even me personally, even had I not been fired, there is a personal financial irresponsibility that I do have to admit to. I'll be honest with you in that regard. But it's one of those things like, oh, I should be good. But again, it comes down to the fact that this school lied about what truly happened, and then I got screwed over, because even though they admitted to the fact that the school lied, I still got screwed over, because then I broke this other policy. So it's, again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Which, I'll be honest, it's completely unfair, and like I said beforehand, this is what I told Karina. And her response, aside from like, oh, we have the no touch policy, is the fact like, well, you should have thought about that beforehand. It's not about human logic over policy. You should always think about the policy. It's like, no, lady, it's like, get out of here. And she also didn't admit. She tried to remind me like, oh, you took the training. I'm like, yes, I took the training a year and a half ago. I'm not gonna remember that. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. Here's the thing. Realistically, I'll be honest. I did remember it, but like I've told you in the past, like I've said previously in the video, I also don't care for that policy, because the overarching policy should be protect kids no matter what. That's their other policy. So I was going under the assumption of that policy and basic human logic over this policy that just categorically makes no sense, even before we get into my incident to begin with. So, and that's what happened. So yeah, I'll admit, right now I am in a bit of a financial strain because now I'm just relying on Banana, and they don't want to give me hours, which is part of the reason I wanted to leave. So there's that going on right there. I am trying to find a new job, essentially, more permanent job. I do have a possible in with an agency right now, but that's something I need to figure out and talk on my own end with them. Right now, that agency is in a transitional period, so it's still kind of to be determined. And my point of contact, my friend who works there, they're trying to get me in there, but again, because they're going kind of through this shift in the company, so to speak, it's not necessarily in the cards right now. It's one of those things I'd have to maybe wait out a little bit longer. But part of it too is just, it's I'm gonna be honest with you. I really wanted to leave Banana. I desperately want to leave Banana Republic. That's thing. I desperately want to leave Banana Republic at this point. I desperately want to leave it. It's one of those things I genuinely have half a mind to literally just quit. The next day I go to work, I literally have half a mind to just quit right there on the spot and never return. That's how much I do not want to be at Banana anymore. That's how much of a half a mind. It's one of those things. I basically, when I quit, I want to quit effective immediately. I don't want to quit 2 weeks, and give a 2 weeks notice. I want to quit effective immediately. That's how much I do not want to be in Banana anymore, straight up. And now I don't have much of a choice. And that's another thing. That's why I'm so frustrated by that too. Because this was my plan. But that's also the key word with it. That was my plan. That is not God's plan. And that's why I need to constantly remember. This is all about God's plan at the end of the day. I need to put my trust in God. I need to put my faith in God. Because He knows what's truly to come at the end of the day. He knows what's the best plan for me. So, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look at the bright side of this. What are the main takeaways from this? I mean, at the end of the day, first off, I know what I did was right. I followed what's basic human knowledge, basic human instinct, what's the right thing to do, which is not to let 2 kids get beat up, no matter the circumstances. Give a damn about this no-touch policy, which is just ridiculous, when the other policy is, hey, make sure kids aren't endangered no matter what. So I know what I did was right, and I know that the school was lying about that, something that even Kelly admits that, yes, they were lying. So that, to begin with, I'm good with that. Because if I got fired for lying, if I got fired for something that I did, something that was inappropriate, then there I have something to be upset with myself. But in this case, I know what I did was right, and I wasn't lying about the situation. So I have peace of mind there. And I also have peace of mind, and it's kind of a thankfulness in this regard, because I found what my passion is. As I've said, again, we're filming this in 2025. Earlier in the year, I posted a video in January or February of 2025. I posted a video saying why I don't want to do acting anymore, why I want to step away from acting. And this is something I've discussed throughout this whole year and probably the years to follow, depending on whenever I release this, if I ever release this. And I discuss, it's one of those things I discuss why I don't like acting anymore, why I don't like filmmaking as much anymore, this, and the other. And it's one of those things I kind of have the shift. So since I'm not doing acting anymore, now I'm going into children education, children's therapy. It's because of subbing with kids that I've found a passion of working with kids, and I found a passion of working with kids who are special needs or at-risk youths. And that's why I want to become an RBT, so I can work with these kids and help them in whatever way I can. And in that's the takeaway I want to take. Those are the positives I want to take from this. This great thing that I found my passion, I found my calling. That's what it all means to me at the end of the day. So yeah, the only other thing I would say to this is that when this happened, immediately after, within the first hour and a half that I got fired, I'll admit I got angry, so I kind of went a little bit scorched earth. So I did write a review on Kelly's Google account. Google, you know how you search up a company and it pops up on Google and you can search up the reviews that right there. So I wrote a review for them, and I basically did a long story short of the situation of why of how I got screwed over. So there was that. And then on Reddit, which I never go on Reddit. I've gone on Reddit occasionally, but it's not one of those things where I personally go to like post, or it's like, or I personally go to like spend time on there. But it's one of those things I just need to rant somewhere and not care. So I ranted on Reddit. I found a substitute teacher subreddit, and I just ranted everything there. And if I'll be honest, I expected this to get like maybe 10, 15, 20 views or whatever, or maybe like 2 or 3 likes, 1 or 2 comments, and like that's about it. Like I don't really know how Reddit works, to be honest with you. So like I was expecting it to be like something small, and people, if people react to it, people react to it. If people don't react to it, they don't react to it. I really didn't care. But damn, did it blow up. Like right now, it has over 50,000 views. It has about 120 likes or upvotes or whatever, and it has about 100 comments, give or take. I think slightly less than 100 comments. And yeah, it really blew up. And it's through Reddit that I've actually found out how unpopular that Kelly truly is, and how people even finding out that Kelly is in their district. That alone becomes a deterrent to not become a sub. It's like, wow, I did not realize Kelly had this kind of reputation. And a lot of people there were saying like, hey, maybe you should work for district. The thing is that we don't. Our district basically is Kelly, so to speak. Like the district would just say, hey, work for Kelly. So that doesn't really work. There's a few other sites that people are saying like Teachers for Call or edu staff, but those aren't really popular down here in South Florida and Miami because Kelly has a monopoly on it. So there's that too. So, those are the options. Some people are saying, hey, go into the private sector, work for a charter school or a private school and kind of go from there. And I was talking with a friend who is a substitute, and he did give me the idea as well. He does know of a school that is hiring for a sub. The one thing with that I'm not that I'm wary against a school or against that, but it's one of those things like I don't want to go there, become a sub for like let's say 2 weeks, and then the whole RBT thing figures itself out. Like that's kind of the one thing I don't want to happen. And then therefore the person who helps me get hired as a sub at that school, then they look bad because like, hey, I helped you get this job and then you left like a week later. Like, that's kind of my main concern with it. Pero, como se dice? But yeah, I did not realize how big that blew up. There are a lot of people who are saying like, oh, you should sue the school or sue the company, this, that, and the other. There's this one guy who went really in depth with it, but sadly he deleted the comment like sometime later because I was trying to show that comment to my friend and it was not there anymore. But he went really in depth with it where he's like, no, you don't. And he goes like, you don't have a wrongful termination lawsuit because you did break policy. Regardless of how you feel about it, you did break policies. So you don't have a wrongful termination, but you do have another type of termination lawsuit that you can do. And then he broke it down. He also said that I have a libel case against the school because they lied about what my actions during the event, and especially more so since I got fired because of the results of their lies, and this, that, and the other. So like, I'll be honest, I'm not gonna sit here and say I haven't thought about suing them, especially when people brought them up. But it's also one of those things like I just don't care to sue them. It really goes down to that. I just want to move on, forget, and that's it. I really do not care to do that. Throughout this whole thing, I'm just trying to make sure that my heart is not hardened. It says that in Romans 9, like how you should, when you have an enemy, don't harden your heart against them. Treat them as you would treat a brother. If you have some extra food, give them the extra food. If you have some extra clothing, give them the extra clothing. Whatever you can give to your enemy, give it to them. And because that's what Christ would do. It says that in Romans 9, and that's kind of what I've been thinking about the whole time. Like I'm trying. I will be honest. I'm trying not to be bitter against these people who lied against me and got me fired because of their lies. I'm trying to not be bitter versus Kelly in the district because, like, you guys are admitting that I did the right thing in one sense, but then you're still firing me. And even though I have a history of breaking up fights physically and you guys have praised me, but now I'm getting in trouble for that same reason, it's like, bro, so I'm trying to not have my heart hardened. So, yeah, that's really it, too. It's funny, I was reading Nahum that Thursday. I was reading Nahum. The Thursday that I went to work at that school, I was reading Nahum. And Nahum, those 3 chapters, it's all about how the oppressors are going to get their just desserts, so to speak, when they go against God's people. If they try to oppress God's people, they will get their revenge, so to speak, in this life or the next. And it's only unless they repent for their actions, and that's and accept Christ. With that one exception, if they don't do that, they will receive their just desserts. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm hoping to get just desserts, you know what I mean? Because I do feel like if you hope for something negative to happen to somebody, that's a little bit not right in general. But It's one of those things that God will take care of it, and God will take care of me at the end of the day, as long as I put my faith in Him. But again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm not frustrated by the situation. I'm not frustrated by the lies. That'd be false. But that's the situation I find myself in. So yeah, hopefully hopefully everything sorts itself out soon. I'll be honest, I'm more depressed, so to speak, about the fact that I still have to work at the Banana Republic than I am about being fired. If I'm being completely honest with you, like, just think about that. Like, Jesus, I have to go back to Banana Republic. Like, I genuinely do not want to be back at Banana Republic. Like, that's how much I just want to be away from that place at this point. So yeah, but maybe that could be a video in of itself too. But yeah, that's basically it for now. Again, just want to let out the air. Who knows if and when I'll ever post this. Again, I recorded this on September 25th, 2025. Let's see if and when I'll ever post this. Yeah, that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart, signing off.